Welcome. It's nice to be able to have an in-person meeting. We'll ask you to keep your masks on because there are so many people in the room. I think everybody's probably been vaccinated, but just to be sure. So, first of all, I want to thank the Department of Veterans Affairs, Washington Department of Veterans Affairs, for helping us put this together. And especially I want to thank the AMVETS Post for their hospitality and allowing us to hear. Larry Stone is the post commander. Thank you so very, very much for your hospitality.
It's our privilege.
Sir?
It's our privilege.
Thank you. The Governor's Veterans Advisory Committee, and there are several members here besides myself. Paul Herrera, who is the vice chair, Bob Wallace, and Chuck Wharton, who were chairs at one time. Art Cruz is a member. Jerry Fugich. I always mess that up. Matt McAllis, Ron Black, Ted Cruz, and we have on video others of our members who could not be here. So, welcome. We have a lot of information. This is being video streamed for those who could not physically be here. For instance, one of our members, Doug Crandall, is in Bellingham. Now, I got to tell you, I look at the paper. My dad grew up in Sumas.
Yep.
And Seattle Times had an article last week, 85% of the houses in Sumas have been flood damaged. And when we were kids, Sumas was just a sleepy little border town, and we'd walk back and forth across the border. The guys with my dad. But, you know, it's a major crossing now, and between the COVID restrictions and the flooding in all of northern Whatcom County and Abbotsford in that area, my God, what they're going through is terrible. Anyway, we have a lot of information for you today. We are being televised, and with that, don't sit down. Our director, my boss.
Okay, for our speakers, we have wipes for, we're going to, please do take your mask off to make sure that you can come across to our streaming clearly. But once you're done, we have wipes and alcohol to make sure that we can disinfect the microphone as we go along. Good morning, my name is Alfie Alvarado, and I am the director of your Washington Department of Veterans Affairs, and we are so happy to be able to meet. It's good to be in person, and some of you already said, well, this is the first time that I've been able to be in a meeting with people and actually be able to interface, and that is wonderful for all of us. I'm going to keep my remarks very brief because our great Deputy Director, David Fuente, is going to be following me with an agency update and make sure that everybody knows what's going on when it comes to your Washington Department of Veterans Affairs. But there are a couple of things that I want to be able to highlight. Number one, we do have an incoming VAC member who has yet to be appointed but should be getting a letter from the governor soon. That is Shelley Willis, and Shelley Willis is with us today. Please stand up, Shelley. And so we welcome her representing the Women Veterans Advisory Committee that serves the 70,000 women veterans in Washington State. And also, in the brochures table over here, there is something called the license plates brochure. As you know, we have a military license plate program, And that program, when we get that $28 from each license plate that is sold or renewed every year, it goes into a fund that supports our veteran cemetery in Spokane and then future veterans cemeteries. That's really important for you to know, because part of the vision of this agency inside of the next 10 years is to be able to have a cemetery in the northwest portion of Washington State. Northwest portion, Whatcom County, the Bellingham area, north of Snohomish. So keep that in mind, because when you pay that extra fee, $28 comes to Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs for the purpose of supporting state cemeteries and also some homeless programs. So I'm going to keep following the agenda in here, and we are going to go with Keith Meyer, who is the program manager for Thurston County Veterans Court.
Thank you, Alfie.
Hey, good morning to everyone. I just found out I'm going to be talking here in front of you today. I found that out yesterday. So, Lisa, just a quick question. How long do I have to talk? So, 5 minutes? 15 minutes. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm Keith Meyer. I'm the program manager for Veterans Court in Thurston County. So, just to let you know, before I jump in, when somebody says they're from their program manager for Veterans Court, it really depends on what county that they're in what kind of program they have. So I want to talk a little bit about our program in Thurston County. It's a 2-year program. It's a diversion program. In order for someone to be eligible for that program, number one, they have to be a veteran, of course. There's got to be a connection to their legal issues, a nexus of some kind. So it's a way of handling veterans that are having legal problems instead of just doing the conventional way, throwing them in jail, hoping they get better, which doesn't work. You can enter this diversion program for veterans. So the qualifications are pretty straightforward. There are some statutes that we have to follow, but if you're a veteran and there's a nexus between your experiences in the military, there's a connection to it. For example, PTSD or depression, and the legal problems, there's an opportunity to possibly get them into Veterans Court. So a Veterans Court in our county is a 2-year program where they'll get intensive services to address their mental health issues as well as possible medical issues, because there's TBI, there's a lot of chronic pain, things of that nature. And at the end of the 2 years, with completion of the program, which is very intensive in nature, they can get possibly their charges completely dismissed or dramatically reduced. And we have a remarkable success rate. Our particular program, depending on the year, is 89 to 92% of the graduates do not have any other issues with the law from that point on. So one of the things that's unique about my program that's not necessarily true for other programs is it can sound confusing when we talk about entering Veterans Court. There's a clinical process and there's a legal process. If I get a referral, for example, anyone can make a referral, including me. If I get that referral and they actually legally enter the program, they can take up to 4 to 6 weeks or even longer. So the clinical process is because I'm a licensed mental health counselor, I can actually do the assessment right then and there, as long as I have somebody who's cooperative. Then I bring it to the Veterans Court team, and if they approve that person, instead of waiting another 6 to 8 weeks for them to legally enter Veterans Court, I will assign what's called a care coordinator. They'll start getting services right away. We don't want people waiting another 4 to 6, 8 weeks, not getting the help that they, I believe, deserve. In addition to that, we have a liaison from the VA, her name's Randy Turner, who will help us immediately once we accept them clinically into the program, where they'll immediately get them connected with the VA and get services that way. We also we're very fortunate in Thurston County, we have something called a Lacey Veterans Hub. Once somebody makes contact with me, I will go over and have that veteran meet with, his name is Shane, meet with Shane to help with any sort of stuff around benefits or any other issues around housing. So what we end up doing is developing very quickly what we call wraparound services, so that the veterans that enter my program will have the opportunity to get the help that they deserve as soon as possible, as well as getting any other needs around like benefits through the VAs and things of that nature. Now, I know I've been throwing a bunch of information at you really quickly. I just want to make sure, does anyone have any questions or comments at this time? Yes.
Hi, Paul Herrera. I have a question. I really commend this program there in Thurston County, and other counties have similar programs, but then there's some counties that have no programs. And I just was wondering, because I know it's probably funding at the county level, but at the superior court level, I think it falls under the state. I don't know if we're equally yoked in the state in helping veterans across the state when they're in trouble. I don't know how we can spread that love for our veterans. I don't know. I'm a police officer, so I see these veterans on the street.
Yeah.
I hear them crying out for help. Everyone has their own situation, you know, and this is really close to my heart, so I'd like to see it spread out a bit. You're setting the standard, and I really appreciate that. But I don't know if you've heard that before, or you know that we're not equally yoked in the counties.
So we're very fortunate in Thurston County. Thank you for the comment and thought. I really appreciate it. So it's going to sound technical, but bear with me. So in Thurston County, it's called, we're through district court. And he talked about superior court. District court are like misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors, whereas superior court deals with felonies. So we're fortunate in Thurston County, superior court can make a referral to district court and get somebody in veterans court. And they have a process where, because it's a felony, they can defer that for 2 years and then what's called a down file, or make a new charge that's related to the original charge so that it can enter district court. So what it does is it protects the community at the same time, because the concern is, okay, you bring a felony, let's say a domestic violence situation, into a district court, they blow out of the program, all they have is a misdemeanor. But if they defer the prosecution for 2 years, if somebody blows out of my program, they can immediately bump those charges back to superior court, and then have that person dealt with legally. Does that make sense? I'm boring you? And so there's a way to do it if you have cooperative prosecuting attorneys. If the prosecuting attorney is willing to work with district courts, because most of them that are done through district court or most veterans program are done through district court or through probation. And so there's a way to do it. It's just if they're cooperative or not. Like in this case, in Thurston County, they're very cooperative. I want to make sure, any questions or any other questions or thoughts? Yes, sir.
How can people get a hold of you, or how do we contact you, sir?
Good question. So in my brilliance of trying to get prepared for this talking today at the last minute, of course, I left my business card. However, I'm going to bug Lisa, can you send out an email? So it'll have my email address, phone number. Whether you're in Thurston County or not, please hear me. Your call is welcome. And if there's anything I can do to help facilitate more of these kinds of programs across the state, I am more than willing to do it. So you'll get an email from me.
Okay. Can you just say your email out loud for those watching, if that's okay, or a phone number or somewhere maybe?
So it's on the internet.
Okay, so it's county, so we got to make it as difficult as possible with the emails, right? So it's all lowercase, and it's KEITH, period, MEYER, at CO, period, Thurston, THURSTON, period, WA, WA, period, US. Wow. Am I running out of time? Okay. So, hey, thank you for have a great day. Thanks for welcoming me. All right, take care.
And that was again Keith Meyer, the program manager for Thurston County Veterans Court. Leaving your email if you have any questions and you're not in Thurston County, please email.
Just kind of hitchhike on Paul's question. In the state, we have veterans courts in Benton County, Spokane County, Stevens County, King, and there's also one at Seattle Treatment Facility, Pierce County, and there's another court that deals with University Place, Lakewood, and a treatment center, Kitsap County, and Clark County. Now, if your county online or here is not represented in that list, what do? As he pointed out, it takes a cooperating district attorney to say, okay, I'll consider it, then find a cooperating judge or two, but that's an area in which the Department of Veterans Affairs, the state, and Tom Davis, one of our members, will work on in the future to make sure the information gets out, so that for those counties, those jurisdictions that do not have a court, years ago, I met the guy who was a judge who started the whole thing in Florida about 10 or 15 years ago. Very effective across the nation, and as you heard, in courts that are local. With that, our Deputy Director, David.
Good morning. Sorry, just out of habit, just wearing it all the time. So, good morning. My name is David Fuente. I'm the Deputy Director of your Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. So I'd like to thank the Chair and the Co-Chair of the Governor's Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee for giving us a couple minutes here to talk a little bit. So I will try to keep it brief so I don't get the hook here shortly. So what I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about what your WDEA has been doing lately when it comes to as an organization. So your leadership team, over the last year, we've been focusing on our strategic plan for the organization. So we've done a lot of that, taking the opportunity to sit down and pause and take a look at what it is that we're going to be focusing on as an organization when it comes to our strategies, priorities, performances, performance measures, outcomes, and etc. So I'm happy to say that we've finished that process, and it's my understanding that we posted our one-page strategic document on our website. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, I will say that we're really proud of that, because there's a really big difference in noticing that, because one of the things that we've tried to address is the diversity in the state of Washington, and you will get to see what that actually is when you take a look at that document. And I apologize for not, I don't know if we could share that or not, but again, it's really work that we're proud of that I really wanted to share today so that you're aware. If you have an interest in taking a look at some of the priorities that we've been focusing on, please do that. The other thing that I wanted to share about some challenges that we have as an organization is within our homes program. As you all know, we've all been dealing with COVID over the last 22 months, and one of the long things that we're trying to address is census, so residents in our 4 state veteran homes. As a result of COVID, that's been a challenge, and also as a result of our staffing shortage has been a challenge. So currently this morning, we're at about a 76% census. And we're struggling to make sure that we're trying to admit our residents. We are admitting as we can based on the number of staff that we currently have at each one of the homes. So I'm glad to say that we are doing that, but it's now at this point, it's a onesie-twosie kind of thing, depending on what we can try to get within the homes. We do have a list of veterans and family members that do want to come in and reside in our state veteran homes. So that is something that we're still ongoing, but it's a challenge because of our staffing issues that we currently have. And that's one of the asks that I have of all of you today, is assistance. So when you're out in the community working within your veteran service organizations or the organizations that you're working with that you represent, my ask is, please, if you know any registered nurses, licensed professional nurses, and anyone that's a nursing assistant certified that's looking for a job or is looking to come work at your Washington Department of Veterans Affairs and support veterans and their families, please send them our way. I mean, obviously I can give you my personal information, but each home has an administrator. We also have human resource consultants that are very good at recruiting and sourcing. So my ask is, please, as you're out and about, if you please refer them to us, because we are in need. The other thing that I'd like to talk a little bit about what we're doing as an organization is focusing on our diversity, equity, and inclusion program. It's one of our priorities for the governor of the state, and it's something that is near and dear to us because, as we all know, veterans and family members is a diverse population. And that's something that we're focusing on. So within the last 18 months, our organization has established a DEI Employee Advisory Committee. They are someone that's advising the leadership team in the organization on things that are important to them. One of the things that was started as a result of their feedback and recommendation is, on a monthly basis, Alfie and I have a community conversation with our agency and our staff. During that hour, what we do is we try to spend about 15 minutes on some type of learning when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So a lot of the conversations we're having is talking about marginalized communities, marginalized industries, and et cetera, just to continue that focus on that topic. It's near and dear to us, and I just wanted to share a little bit about what we've been doing on that. The next thing that I want to share is really exciting. I know today we're having a meeting in person. We appreciate that because it's an opportunity to, as Alfie said, have that connection with us that we've been missing. For us, the news that I wanted to share is as of Monday, December 13th, we will be reopening our central office to start working with the public face to face. So again, a new change, but I'm excited to announce that we are moving forward with reopening our main central office so that we can begin to support our veterans in person. We've been doing it all along on virtual space, but now it's the opportunity for us to reopen our building and do that. Just to remind everybody, as we're doing now, wearing our mask is something that we're going to require all of our visitors that come to our facilities to continue to wear facial covering, your mask. You will be asked all the screening questions to ensure everybody can walk in, take your temperature, and et cetera. But we're going to continue to follow all Department of Health, local health jurisdiction guidance, and also federal guidance. So again, just a friendly reminder for everybody that shows up to want to visit our facilities. The next thing that I want to share is, lastly, is some really great news. So as an organization over the last 12 months, we worked on submitting federal grants. I know we've got our federal partners here, but I want to say thank you to the federal government. They've given us, we've applied, we've received 8 grants totaling about $15.5 million that we are going to use to upgrade our 4 state veteran homes and the transitional housing. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what that is and where we're going to focus on that. So for example, Walla Walla, our veteran home in Walla Walla is going to receive about $900,000. The focus is going to be to construct a new maintenance and storage building. Also, we're going to be able to store personal protective equipment and create some small offices in that space as well. The Spokane Veteran Home, they're receiving $1.2 million. That money is going to be used for installation of new HVAC units on the roof. And also, we're going to also take a look at installing ultraviolet lights in the system so that we can clean the air coming in and out as it circulates through the building. We also have some flooring replacement that's going to take place at 2 of our state veteran homes. So the Washington Veteran Home in Port Orchard and our Washington Soldiers Home in Ording. They will get $3.2 million in replacing the floors throughout the facility to ensure that we have good safe space for both homes. The Transitional Housing Program in Port Orchard, they're receiving $2.4 million. That's really exciting because, as you all know, we have a program with the organization where we help veterans without homes. They're trying to transition to get back and seek employment, seek their home. But right now, they're all living in double rooms. So with this grant that we're receiving, we're going to be able to create single rooms with single showers to give those veterans that space that's needed for them to continue with their journey as they become more productive citizens. They go out and seek employment, and they're able to seek their new residence. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is we're also spending $3.7 million to prepare and to continue to respond to the current pandemic. So what that means is we're going to continue to purchase equipment, like ultraviolet equipment, lights to help us with sanitation, security, cleaning, personal protective equipment, so that we can focus on infection control within our 4 state veteran homes. As you all, that's something that we'll continue to deal with, especially with the new variant. It's something that's near and dear to us that we want to keep a focus on to ensure that we're maintaining the safe and health well-being of our residents in our 4 state homes, as well as our employees. We can't do this without our employees. So I just wanted to say thank you for your time. Are there any questions that you have regarding what's going on at your WDVA? Nada? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time.
see, David, one of the important elements of doing business in the state is dealing with the legislature. Now, it was Daniel Webster who said, although a little sexist comment, now's the time for men to work quietly in the fields and women to weep softly in the kitchen, but the legislature in session and no man's property is safe. Now, having said that, we have in the state the Veterans Legislative Coalition. Jerry heads currently, I did a number of years ago, and that's an organization which has representatives from 15 different veterans service organizations. And we meet to discuss bills that are in front of the legislature that impact veterans and their families. And there have been some very significant developments over the years. Little things like the fact that if the service member leaves the service and wants to get a commercial driver's license, then depending upon whether that veteran, whether that was in the Air Force or the Navy or the Marine Corps or the Army, drove a truck of a certain size that they could test without going through the $10,000 or $15,000 course requirement in order to get a CDL. And for some young male soldier getting out of the Army, that's a pretty damn big deal. We were able to get that accomplished. There's a lot of measures in front of the legislature dealing with identification of suicide tendencies. But our leader in that is Heidi Audette, the head of communications. Without her, we couldn't survive, and she is the one, with Alfie and David, that make things hum to ensure that the department is properly funded in the budget and to ensure that veterans and their families are taken care of in various bills that come before it. Spousal employment issues, that sort of thing. So it's an important element, and I want to ensure veterans and their families throughout the state, you're not forgotten. There's a group of people who meet every Friday afternoon to say what's in front of the legislature, do we support it? Because when one of our members stands in front of a legislative committee and says, veterans and their families support this, that's important. The state of Washington has, depending on the statistical count, the 7th or 8th highest number of veterans in the nation. And legislators know that. So, it's my pleasure to introduce a group of folks from the VA who are going to provide all kinds of information about benefits and how you go. How are you guys going to start? I want to go. Yeah.
John, no chance, John.
Oh, okay, first deputy director of VA. Yes.
I appreciate it. Size, try to jump up in there.
No?
First of all, I want to say thank you for having us out today. And this, I got to be honest with you, this is the first time I've had a meeting with this many people in it in quite a while. So
Yeah.
it's a true honor and privilege for me. My name is Dr. Tom Brown. I'm the new Deputy Executive Director for the VA Puget Sound Healthcare System. And I'm here with a distinguished august body of individuals here, and I'm going to introduce each one in turn. We'll come up and provide a few short, brief comments. So, sorry, David Fuentes, we're going to keep this tight wherever you're at. I know you're right here. Yeah, okay. I know I'm not going to compete with you. But I do have some things I want to say. And the first one is, as part of this esteemed team and this group meeting today, there has actually been a lot of work going on the ground in just these 3 brief months that I've been a part of this wonderful organization. And I'll tell you, first and foremost, you're going to hear about community care today. You're going to hear about care provider programs. You're going to hear about COVID and boosters and all that sort of thing that we have listed here today. But I wanted to make sure you also knew that we're doing a lot of work on our strategic planning and assessments as well from a VA position. It's not just a year-long strategic planning. It's not a 2-year. it's a 5 to 20. And part of that brings in a whole different slice of a way to look at a problem set. And so we're talking about things that are going to happen long after we are ourselves either in the retiree line or, God forbid, some of us maybe even in Tahoma. I don't know, Alfie. I'm going to be looking at you for that case. But for many of us in this line of work, it's very unusual to talk about something that's going to happen long after our departure. So I think that's a good news story. And a lot of that's dealing with where the veterans are going to need their care in the future. Using heat maps, using up-to-date technology, using data resources, using feedback from groups of folks like you is how we determine where we're going to put the next generation of platforms and services available to you and what services are going to be there to service you. So for our example, our more recent one's going to come up here in Everett. Everett's going to have a new CBOC up there. It's going to be a very large community-based outpatient clinic. It is looking around the fall 22 time frame, roughly, getting close to the holidays, the next holidays, but we're talking a massive clinic out there between 5 to 10,000, depending on the number of teams we can get up there of patients that will be supported through that entity, along with specialty care for certain areas and along with all the imaging and diagnostics and lab people need, which is a huge benefit to that area. I know there was some talk about coming up the corridor, and that's a way to get after it. And the way that's happening and the speed that's happening it's a good news story because the next pieces that we'll do will happen that fast as well. We did something recently at the facility in Seattle, and we're doing it at American Lake as well, and that's a purchase an entire new beds for the entire system. We're talking $10 million worth of beds, if you will. Top of the line, fantastic, incredible architecture, very difficult to do. I used to run hospitals in DOD. I wish I had beds this good, right? These are fantastic, and the reason I did is pre-planning, strategy, and working together as a team to make that happen, and this team did long before I even arrived. I was just here to witness the layout of the floors, and so far we've got about 180 of those beds on the floor in the main facility, and another 200 some odd coming here in the next few short weeks. So it is an impressive operation, and I just wanted to share that piece with you. And then finally, before we go into the holiday time, I would tell you that please continue to pay attention to some of the messages that are going to come out for healthcare requirements. Please, okay? We'll still have folks come in our facility, whether they're sick for a while or not, say if they're not well, they need to call, they need to come in, they need to make an appointment, they need to see their provider, please do so. And help your constituents understand that your rest of your health care is just as important as the COVID pandemic that's going on here, and you have to take care of yourself because we're seeing some trends in some communities that are concerning, and we want to make sure people are coming to getting their care taken care of. And this is not just here in Washington State, this is obviously nation and probably be arguable global, okay? So with that, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come up here and speak today. I want to have Dr. Connie Moran come up, or Dr. Pamela Wilkerson, or the tag team, I should say. These folks are going to talk about certain specific elements important to all of us. Thank you so much.
Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, I'm Connie Moran. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff at the VA Puget Sound. I've met with this group before, and I believe that the last time that we spoke, I gave you a little bit of background about community care. For those of you who weren't there and are new to this discussion, then I'll go ahead and repeat just some of it. I will be doing the background about community care and what its current model looks like. And then I'll hand it over to Dr. Wilkerson, who's the current Acting Director of Community Care, who will go over what we've done to work down the backlog that's developed over the last year, and also the changes that we're going to be making in the program.
And it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years since we had a group.
Wow. Okay, so 2 years. But anyways, community care. Within the VA system, it's changed a lot. Those of you who've been here long enough may remember the program being called the Purchase Care Program. And that was strictly an administrative program. It really wasn't a clinical program where we were coordinating the care that's provided in the community. Then the Choice Program came. You are probably more familiar with the Choice Program. That expanded the care to veterans who were eligible in terms of how far away that they lived from the closest VA facility. It wasn't the VA facility that provided that care, it was the closest VA facility. So if you needed to see a cardiologist, but you lived within 30 miles of Port Angeles, you weren't eligible because you lived within 30 miles of Port Angeles, even though Port Angeles didn't have a cardiologist. So that led to additional changes, and that came out in the Mission Act, which is actually, that was a law that was passed, I believe it was in 2018, or at least 3 years into it. And the Mission Act actually significantly expanded the ability for veterans to get care in the community. And the basic criteria that we utilized is for veterans who were already enrolled through the Choice Program, not grandfathered in, so we just continued their care in the community, didn't pull them back. If you lived within 30-minute drive time, it changed from miles up to 2 minutes. If it took you 30 minutes to go 10 miles, you were eligible. So it went to drive time distance to where that care was provided. So essentially for primary care, it's 30 minutes. For specialty care, it's 60 minutes. Then it also looked into the wait times. So if the VA could provide the care, but you had to wait longer than an X amount of time, you were also eligible for the care in the community. And the current wait time eligibility is 20 days for primary care and 28 days for specialty care. Then there's other criteria, like if we don't provide the care, the VA doesn't provide OB care. So we actually farm out all of our OB care, and also certainly in healthcare, like the mammograms, we farm all of that out. So with that significant expansion, think Washington, think islands and mountains and areas that don't have large communities that provide medical care, it significantly increased the number of our veterans who are eligible for care in the community. So we went from an average of about less than 8,000 consults a month to 10,000 consults a month. So just like that, almost overnight, we all of a sudden saw a huge increase in the demand for care in the community. That alone was one big issue, but then something happened 20 months ago, and that was COVID. So you all remember COVID at the peak of the moment, and actually for the first full year, it was a national mandate that we were only going to be open for urgent and emergent care. Any kind of care that was deemed routine, so your routine eye exam, your routine diabetic follow-up, would be put on hold. And this was not just within the VA, this was also in the community. But in the meantime, the care, the requests for the care still kept coming in. So these requests were coming in, but we couldn't do anything with them. We couldn't provide the care in-house, we couldn't provide the care out in the community, but we weren't just sitting around doing nothing. All of that resources that we had diverted to taking care of our COVID patients. We opened up a new ward. We had to develop a screening program for our employees, our veterans. We also had to develop a testing program once the test became available, and then ultimately the vaccine program. So that's what we devoted that first year to, was essentially everything COVID. Finally, the vaccine came out. You know, we're at least 50% vaccinated. We're more comfortable about opening up the facility. And in spring of this year, we started to open up and bring as much of the care as we could in-house. But in the meantime, those referrals built up, and they built up. So at the peak, we had 60,000 referrals that were still there. They were still open. They needed to be scheduled. The veterans needed to be seen. And add to that the third problem we ran into, and somebody referred to that, I think, in the veterans homes, the same thing applies, is we ran into a staffing crisis. A lot of nursing staff has elected to retire, and also it's very, very difficult to hold on to nurses. There's a high demand for them and not enough of them. But in regards to community care, it wasn't just the nurses, it was the schedule. We refer to them as MSAs, medical support assistants. There's a national shortage of MSAs. These are entry-level positions. If you live in Seattle, the cost of living is so high, we couldn't bring on MSAs. So at the peak, we had a 30% shortage of MSAs. We have 60,000 consults. We need 80 MSAs, and we probably have 50 MSAs. Now, we actually did everything that we could to kind of correct that problem. We did a salary increase. We offered them recruitment bonuses. We're offering being able to telework, so not having to come into the facility. We've just done everything that we possibly can, and even reached out to the VISN. VISN is our network, to say, hey, we need help. Can you send us some MSAs? Can we utilize some resources outside of our facility, and Dr. Wilkerson can tell you how that worked. But needless to say, we are now in a much better position. Under Dr. Wilkerson's tutelage, we made some remarkable improvements. We still have a ways to go. Keep in mind that when you have that large of a backlog and you don't have the MSAs, veterans wait, the community partners wait, people start calling. It's that constant just churning. But we've made some significant changes, and I anticipate there's going to be lots of questions, but I suspect that we're going to hold the questions to the end. We're going to be here till 12:30, so we'll answer as many of the questions as we can. But I would like to hand it over to Dr. Wilkerson.
Thank you, Dr. Rhinitis. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So my name is Pamela Wilkerson, and I am the Director of Nursing for General Medicine Service, which is the primary care clinic in VA Puget Sound. And when I was asked to take over for the Acting Director of Community Care with the task of 60,000 consults, you can tell my heart was racing. But this was not only a mission as a nurse that I was excited to take on and participate, but I'm also a spouse of a veteran and a daughter of a veteran. So it was a personal mission to, as I work with community care, to make the care, close the care gaps for our veterans. So our first mission when I arrived at the community care department was working down the backlog of 60,000 consults. So the 60,000 consults were broken into approximately 30,000 that had been scheduled but needed to be closed out, where we get the records and upload them to our electronic healthcare record system, so that and closing gaps in care for the primary care team to be able to then follow through with the patient that got the care out in the community. The more critical piece of that was the other half of that, the 30,000 that were veterans that still needed to be scheduled out in the community. And with the help from our business department, they gave us 20 additional MSAs to help us work through the backlog. And we worked through that backlog in phases to try and get veterans scheduled. So working from oldest to newest. We also got help from the facility where we had approximately 10 MSAs detailed to us. So all those MSAs that were out screening you when you came into the VA campus, they then took them and gave them to us in our department. So there was a little bit of a training curve that we had to go through. Community care is not an easy department to work in. You have to know all of the ins and outs to make sure that you are assisting the veteran the best that you can to get them to their appointment. So there's a lot that goes into getting an appointment out in the community. So through that, we were able to work down the unscheduled backlog, and we're currently, we're happy to say, though we have a long way to go, we've come a long way. We now have about 11,000 more consults to get scheduled. And so how we're planning to tackle that is we're now, with meeting with leadership and working through systems redesign and being able to provide leadership with a really detailed analysis of how many staffing it would need to work through the backlog and to prevent future backlog. We were able to give them that information so that they were able to make a educated decision on how to spend the money basically to fund community care. So through that, we got an additional 20 MSAs in our department. And so currently we're hiring for that, and that will bring us up to a total of 100 MSAs in community care. And so we continue to do recruitment efforts through recruitment incentives. We've also transitioned positions to virtual so that we are not limited to our applicant pool only in Washington State, that we can look outside of the state and try to increase our applicant pool to fill these positions. And we're hoping through this, well not hoping, our plan is to take the additional FTE and stand up the telephone lines in community care. So we recognize that to be a huge problem for veterans and also our community partners. Right now, the same people that are processing these consults, these 11,000 consults, are the same people that have to answer the phone. So they're kind of running all day, putting out fires, and then trying to be proactive to schedule. We want to change that model, so we have a dedicated call center to help man the phone lines, and then have dedicated staff to continue to work on the consults. So getting that additional permanent staffing numbers up will assist with that. The second part is doing some internal systems redesign with our processes and procedures. working more as an integrated department. So we're hoping in the future to have our RNs who are in that department to really do coordinated care with the veterans. So once they're out in the community receiving care, especially for our high-risk categories of care like oncology, cardiology, that you have a nurse, that just as you do in primary care, that is reaching out to you routinely to make sure that your care gaps and care needs are being met out in the community. We also recognize that our network overall, with our community partners, was also somewhat limited through COVID and also through the transition, as Dr. Moran just mentioned, going from the Redesign Act. And so we've been working closely with Tri-West. They have a new regional director that we meet with every other week, and we tackle any issues that we hear from the field regarding limited network access. So recently partnered with them to onboard an urgent care through Olympic Medical, and we've tried to increase resources for our LGBTQIA community. So anytime we hear any network issues, we're working together to tackle that. We also recently hired an RN Provider Liaison. So this RN's job will be to make sure that we maintain relationships with our community partners. So going out to the community, educating the community partners on how to submit their reimbursements so that we can tackle those reimbursement issues. We want to maintain good relationships to make sure that we have a network that will service you. And then in addition, we're partnering with the facility, so giving them data so that our leadership team can really know where to put resources, because our ultimate goal is we'd like to service you within the VA. So as great as we're trying to make community care, we want to expand services for you within our VA system. So this is another great opportunity for me, because as the Director of Nursing for Primary Care, I'm able to help bridge some knowledge gaps, and we're able to strategically plan where do we need to put additional resources just within our system. So expanding like cardiology services out in Mount Vernon, because our goal is that we want to service you within the VA. So really partnering with the ELT on that mission as well. That really sums up where we're at right now with community care and our vision going forward. I can give you just a little bit of more information about working through that backlog. We also targeted high-risk categories of care. So one of the areas that we saw, with obviously 31,000 now down to 11,000 consults. What do we do with those high-risk categories of care, such as oncology services, patients that are needing to go out in the community for oncology services. So we've also created internal processes where we target those high-risk categories and work those as priority. So trying to make sure that those veterans, as we work through the backlog, are not waiting and having an extended period of time trying to get those critical services out in the community. So we were able to work down that backlog as well through this process. And I can go on and on. I will stop myself. But please let me know if you have if we're going to take questions now or at the end. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Are you going to get an emergency care at American Lake? Because
Emergency.
there's no walk-ins, right?
Can you repeat the question to make sure that?
Are we going to get emergency care at the VA?
American
Lake VA.
Yeah.
So the criteria for having an emergency room is you have to have an inpatient hospital to back up the emergency room. So that was why the emergency room was closed down at American Lake quite a few years ago, when it became strictly outpatient. Then it became an urgent care center. Now, part of the Mission Act is that all veterans, eligible veterans, if they've been seen within the VA system within 2 years, can utilize our urgent care network. So we actually have contracted through Tri-West with multiple urgent care centers all over Western Washington. And veterans can actually go to these urgent care centers free of charge for a certain number of visits. There's a specific criteria without having to come all the way to the VA. And it was for that reason that the American Lake Urgent Care was closed down.
Can they go to the Silverdale and not get charged?
So Silverdale Clinic, okay, so
The Silverdale Emergency, it's the new building.
Okay, so the Silverdale VA Clinic is also just a CVOC. These are primary care clinics, and they only take appointments they only see patients by appointment. There is an actual website that we can give you the information to that will allow you to put in your zip code, and it will tell you where the closest urgent care clinic is.
I meant the civilian Silverdale ER.
So,
Veterans go there?
so if it's for urgent care, it has to be on the network. So I'll have to look to see if that facility is in the network. I don't know off the top of my head.
That's va.gov, locations top right, put in urgent care emergency room, it'll show you everything within 50 miles of your area.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, let me skip that. So, yeah, one question. So, we're talking about all this information that's coming out this year. It's great, but for some of our people that we're working with, if we're not AMVETs or VAV or, you know, we're not vetted into the system and how to read the website and all that, I saw that there was a shortage on mailers going out due to whatever that is, VVA, VHA, whatever, the contract to send this information out to veterans for the holiday season. How are you guys streamlining that information to the veterans themselves?
So that would be an excellent question for our public affairs officers who would have been here today except she's having surgery. I do know that on our website that we have at the VHA, it also gives you all of the information. We send out quarterly newsletters. There is a flyer that's going to be going out shortly. If you can give me your contact information, I can have the public affairs officer answer your question directly.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We've got a question online. Can we make changes to Community Care Tri-West Chiropractic Program? Currently only allows 8 visits per 6 months. This is barely more than 1 per month and severely inadequate for those of us on a pain management regimen.
The standard for the authorizations is actually made on a national basis. We don't have control over that. One thing that we wanted to emphasize is that the VA covers chiropractic care for an acute need. It doesn't cover maintenance, which it sounds like that's what the veteran that asked you the question. The chiropractic care, the community care authorizations don't cover maintenance therapy. They really are designed to cover therapy for an acute injury or post-injury. It's not meant to go on long-term. We have actually increased chiropractors within our VA system. We now have chiropractors in Seattle, not just American Lake. So potentially you can also provide that care within the facility.
I think we got another question on here. It looks like it might have been answered, but just can we get help being removed from the new home care tax since we are covered by the VA? I am 90% service connected.
Oh, okay. So we have.
So I'm prepared to speak a little bit about that when it's my turn.
Okay.
My name is Lindsay Pineda. This question was asked a few months ago, and I had an opportunity to do a little bit more research. So the answer is not a simple yes or no. The first response is the VA is not actually, or the national VA is not actually the body that would be responsible to answer that question. From the research that I've been able to do, it's a state law. It's a Washington state law, and so the legislation and the verbiage. This is something that Washington State is put into place, and therefore would be those, they've written the waiver criteria, and I would direct the questions to the body and agency that is making the decisions. The second piece of that is one of the wonderful things about the VA's healthcare system and a best practice is each individual patient is a unique person, and their treatment decisions and options are unique and based on their needs. And when we talk about long-term care and long-term care options, the VA has a menu of services that can be looked at and offered in conjunction with our model that's patient-centered. So some may have the option of HHHA, which is home health. I always just call it CAHA because it's easier to say, but it's the opportunity to have a home health care aid, and not, some may need nursing home level care. Some may need the option of skilled home. The bottom line is that in some instances this would meet the long-term care waiver criteria. In some instances, the interventions that the veteran may both require due to their clinical need and choose, both with them and their family, to have engagement in might not meet waiver criteria. So it's not a simple yes or no that the veteran might meet the waiver applicability. So I unfortunately don't have an easy answer or guidance at this point. I would, again, to the first kind of thing I said, really encourage referencing or directing the veterans who come to you with questions back to, there's a very full website with guidance and direction on how to file the waiver and who to send the waiver to. And I, at this point, believe that it may be a case-by-case basis as the state learns more about how the menu of care or services that the VA healthcare system offers and kind of uses in the treatment planning and options of interventions, we are able to shape and provide to our veterans kind of works or plays out for our patients in the options for long-term care. It's new and we don't have, the state doesn't have data to see kind of how it works with long-term care and our veteran patients. I wish it were an easier, just yes, they meet it, the waiver criteria, or no, we go. So I hope that is
What was that website
helpful
that you cited
in a way.
What was that website you cited a few minutes ago?
It's WA Cares Fund. It's wacaresfund.wa.gov. And you go on there with your 100% disabled letter and you apply for the exemption that way.
Doctor, anything more? There will be a test before you leave the room.
We would want to hear from Ms. Lily Cridlin here on COVID.
Great.
Absolutely. I'm just going to jump in really quickly. My name is Heidi Audette. I'm the Communications and Legislative Director for the Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. And just since we're talking about the WA Cares Fund and the long-term care tax that's going to come into effect in January 22, just to provide a little information on the two categories of veterans who could receive an exemption. So if you are, first of all, this is an employment tax. So it is only for those who are employed. If you are retired, this doesn't impact your retirement. It doesn't impact your VA disability compensation. But if you are employed and you don't work for the federal government, because federal employees are also exempt, then you can request an exemption if you have a long-term care policy. And so if you are a retiree and you have TRICARE and you had purchased a long-term care policy, that is a group of people who can request an exemption. And the other group of veterans are those who are rated 70 to 100% service-connected disabled. Those veterans are also able to request an exemption. And we can provide some information to everyone who's here and on the Facebook live stream so that you can go to the website and learn more about the exemptions that are available. So thank you.
Yeah, we've got two more on this.
Great.
Thank you. My name is Lily Goodland. I work with the VA in the vaccine program. It is really great to see 3D faces today. So this is a nice treat. I didn't realize until I was sitting here actually listening to Dr. Rentis that it's been about almost a year since we first gave the COVID vaccine to VA. So that is, I think, a happy anniversary for us coming up. We now have about 76,000 veterans in the Puget Sound area who have been vaccinated, either by us, by other providers, community care partners, et cetera, which I think we're all very proud of. Our current operating status is that we are giving COVID-19 vaccines by appointment in our American Lake and several of our CBOC clinics. And we are now in the process of transitioning into making COVID vaccines part of regular care. So making this into a long-term, sustainable, normal operations type of service. So when you come in for your regular care appointments, primary care, many of our specialty clinics, ask for a COVID vaccine, they'll be able to give it to you when you're in for your visits there. That transition is already happening in Seattle, so if you're in Seattle and you come in for your appointments, ask your care team, get your booster shot, get your first or second shot, whatever you're due for, and get that during your visits. One of the exciting things about this transition and moving it into this sustainable long-term plan is that we've been able to open up that access now so that the CBOCs have regular, ongoing COVID vaccine plans so that they can do this throughout the community. You don't have to go to Seattle American Lake to get your vaccines. This is something you can do Port Angeles, Edmonds, Mount Vernon, Olympia, Puyallup, Silverdale. So increasing the ability for veterans to get vaccines where it's convenient for them. Of course, we also continue to urge people, if it's more convenient or faster to get it in the community, please do so. Those are free everywhere. We also are excited, we now have better data transferring in from the state. So if you get your vaccine elsewhere, it will come into your record with the VA. So you're not going to lose that information. You don't have to, I mean, it's always good to keep your card, take a picture of your card. I remind everybody all the time, take a picture of your card, keep it in a safe place. But the VA will also now have a record of that coming in from the state. So that's a nice added benefit at this point as well. Looking forward, that's starting in January. So January forward, ask for this as you come in when you need your vaccines. The other important reminder right now is, of course, there is a lot of uncertainty about what's coming next, variants, etc. Definitely something to be mindful of, but still our best tools right now are vaccinating. Sort of regardless of what happens with variants, we know that vaccination works with what we're facing right now, which is Delta in our community. This is the best thing we can do to protect our veterans, is get them vaccinated, get them boosted, get folks in, recommend that they do get the boosters wherever and whenever is convenient. Also, of course, not too late for your flu shots, so if you haven't gotten that yet, please do come in and get your flu shot, or find one of the community care partners who can get you that. Definitely want to make sure that you're protected against as much as you can at this point.
Yeah, it's me again.
I must tell you, I got my shots at American Lake, and it was the most efficient, outstanding system. And another comment too, the State Department put out a series on get a shot. And one of the comments that I made when Gary was taking pictures was, all of us, when we went through some level of recruit training, no matter what service you were in, one day your arm felt like a pincushion because you got your 13 shots. And for those of us who were in Vietnam, once a month, lean over, you got your hip shot of gamma globulin. And so, 2 shots, that's a piece of cake.
Good morning once again. My name is Lindsay Pineda, and I am the current program manager for the Caregiver Support Program for here at the Puget Sound Healthcare System. I know that speaker, so I appreciate a few minutes of your attention. I am here to answer any questions that you have burning about the Caregiver Support Program. I was present in September for the advisory committee's town hall call that was held virtually. So some of you may have heard a little bit about the program. I will rapidly recap the information so that hopefully it isn't boring to hear it again. The Caregiver Support Program, just briefly, our mission is, I always like to start with this because the Department of Veterans Affairs' primary mission is to serve veterans. And the unique aspect of the Caregiver Support Program is that our mission is to serve caregivers. Now, of course, in serving caregivers, we are serving veterans because our caregivers are taking care of our veterans. Our way that we take care of caregivers is by promoting their health and well-being through education, resources, supportive services, and service excellence. The Caregiver Support Program, the umbrella, is comprised of two unique programs. We have the program of General Caregiver Support Services, and I will refer to that as our general program because it's faster to say. And we also have the program of Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers, which we lovingly refer to as Pcaf, also because it's faster to say. So what I want to start with is the general program. The general program supports enrolled veterans of all eras. So I want to make sure there's no restriction on eras for the general program. And the enrollment eligibility for the general program is the veteran they need assistance with activities of daily living or assistance due to supervision needs or protection needs based on symptoms or residuals of neurological care or other impairment or injury. Our program Pcaf offers services to our veterans who they also have eligibility criteria, and there's 7 eligibility criteria, but in summary, it is eligible veterans who have incurred or aggravated a serious injury in the line of duty and meet the current eligible periods of service, which is up till May of 1975, or those that served after September 1st, 2001. So post 9/11 or post 9/11 era veterans. I was making sure I had the correct year since we always refer to it as 9/11. So that is our current period of open. Now, phase 2 of expansion occurs in less than a year when we will then have the Pcaf program available to receive applications for all eras. So phase 2, which opens Pcaf to all eras, is October 1st of 2022. So that's our next important date when applications are available to be received for all eras. The first thing that I want to make sure that I state about both programs is that anyone enrolled in the Caregiver Support Program, which means both programs, all caregivers receive resources and referrals, education, training, and support. So every group that we offer, every training, we have caregiver support staff available that are assigned to each group of participants. If it's one caregiver and one caregiver, or if there's 2 and up to 3 caregivers working with a veteran, all are eligible for that menu of services, regardless of if they are in our general program or our Pcaf program. The significant difference in the programs is that our Pcaf program is what we call, it has what we call an enhanced set of services. So the Pcaf program's enhanced benefits include a monthly stipend, access to CHAMP VA, so the Civilian Health and Medical Program, if they qualify, if they meet qualification criteria for that, an enhanced respite benefit, and certain beneficiary travel if they qualify, and a legislated monitoring that is required for those that participate. So our staff is required to have monitoring visits every 120 days. Because of that enhanced package, the Pcaf program has an intense application process, including several assessments. It also has a higher threshold of clinical need. This is a clinical program. It is not a benefits program. The purpose of both our programs is to ensure that we are supporting caregivers, and with our Pcaf program to ensure that we are promoting the health and well-being of the caregiver, and that our program is in the best interest of the veteran as well. The Pcaf program is aimed at veterans who require a caregiver because they have a moderate to severe need that requires a caregiver in order for them to remain safe and at home in the environment that they live in. There's a plethora, there's a large amount of information available at your fingertips to share with veterans and their caregivers when they present to you with questions. It is all located at the VA's caregiver website, which is caregiver.va.gov. There are fact sheets on every question they may have. What is the application process? There's an application fact sheet. What is eligibility criteria? What's the stipend? What does it mean if I might be, how do I handle a denial? What's the process for the denial? Every topic that we receive questions on, there are detailed fact sheets. How do I apply to the program? The fastest way is always online. It shows directly up in our queue. If the person is not comfortable with online, the application is on that same page on the website and can be downloaded. We have a secure fax that again shows up right quickly with us. So in order of how fast we get it, the fastest way is online. The second fastest way is the secure fax. They can be emailed to us if they have ability to send it securely. We never want personally identifiable information sent to us by email if it cannot be sent securely. It can be mailed to the Health Eligibility Center, which is on the application. And if a veteran wants to bring it to us, we have a contact phone number so we can find out where they would like to bring it, which site, and then ensure that they can see us. Just to let you know, since expansion occurred, since phase 1 occurred, we on October 1st, 2020, we are, as when I checked the end of the day yesterday, we were 4 applications away from 1,600 here at VA Puget Sound. We are the largest, site within this VISN, which is our service network. There are a couple significant updates since I met with you all in September. The first one, you know this process because it's a VBA process. Previously, those veterans and caregivers who wanted to appeal either a denial or perhaps the decision about enrollment, if they wanted consideration of a change in what level they were given. The previous option to appeal was to utilize the healthcare system's clinical appeal process. After a court decision with the U.S. Court of Appeals, there is now an additional process that has been added for veterans and caregivers to appeal the outcome of their Pcaf application. They now have the added process of filing a supplemental or excuse me, yes, so I wanna make sure I call them the right things. So, they may now utilize these supplemental claim and higher level reviews, and they may also file an appeal with the Board of Veterans Affairs. Those are the new options for filing appeals related to outcomes of decisions regarding their Pcaf. So this is brand new to us. And we have fact sheets and frequently asked questions to help guide us. So we are walking this process for the first time. I had a veteran who just called me and we pulled it out together because he said, I have filled out this form, where do I mail it? And I said, hang on, let me pull that document up and let's look together. And we found, because there's a lot of different each of those forms, depending on which one you're doing, goes to a different place. And I said, all right, you did this -2020 something. All right, this form goes to this place. So we are walking this journey together. However, I wanted to make sure in this audience that you know that one of the ways our veterans can appeal or caregivers can appeal now is completely a VBA process. So the second thing that has the second piece of our program that has it is a newer portion since we last met is we have a group of veterans and caregivers who have been participating in our program prior to the expansion. This group of people are referred to as our legacy participants. And when expansion occurred, when the legislation was signed, which we refer to as the final rule, it's implemented as a result of the Mission Act. The legislation wrote that the legacy participants would not be reassessed against the new criteria for a year. They were given an extension for an additional year. So we began around end of September, October 1st, reassessing our legacy cohort against the new eligibility requirements. For this cohort, we have 146 cases that we are currently reassessing, and they are being now reassessed with the new eligibility requirements. For those who find themselves with an outcome of a decrease in their stipend or a discharge from the program, there may be confusion about when the time, when is the change going to occur for me? What's going to happen over this next year? We want you to know that we can answer any questions about the specifics should they come to you. I also want you to know we have a fact sheet that can be provided as well. So those are the two things that have gone into effect or are currently going on since we last spoke that you may receive questions on from your constituents, and we are here to answer them and to provide you with the resources for you to pass on to those that you serve. And that is it, because it can get long as you sit and listen to a lot of information. So just know that if you are at some point thinking, I know there was something I needed to remember, my information is available, as well as we have a program email, and we are happy to continue being available to answer questions for you. Are there any that I can answer right now? Yes, sir.
Dates again.
The dates for the next expansion?
Yes.
October 1st of 2022, the program, the Pcaf program, PCAFC, Program of Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers, will no longer have any restrictions regarding service era for application acceptance. You bet. Any other questions? I just want to make sure you know that the program email address is PUG caregiver support @va.gov. If you've got questions, please let us know.
right-handed possible.
Anything else, sir?
I think we're good.
Tremendous amount of information. And we're right. What about eye care and dental? Do you have anything on that, doctor?
So wasn't sure what specific questions you have about eye care and hearing aids at the VA, but I can explain the process through community care. So you as a veteran can go to the eye clinic, you can self-referral to the eye clinic to request an eye exam. If they cannot see you within our eye clinic, they can then refer you out to the community. It'll come to community care. We'll then contact you to get you an appointment with a provider out in the community. At that point, if you need eyeglasses, the prescription that the community provider writes for you, you would then bring back into the VA to one of our eyeglass centers, which is American Lake campus or Seattle campus at this time. Are there any questions around that process? Yes.
Yes, I had my eyes examined 14 months ago, made several attempts to get approved for glasses, was never able to get through. Now I'm up for a new appointment, and I've been trying to schedule it, and I call the number, nobody answers the phone, and nobody returns my calls.
You're calling American Lake, Ryan?
Yeah, for approval for community care.
For approval. That is part, unfortunately, I'm sorry that you're probably in that 11,000 backlog, but I can take your information today and follow up with you. There's no easy answer other than the larger answer I had of we're trying to work through the backlog. We've hired additional optometrists, my understanding, at our VAs to try and care for more veterans. But I can definitely take your information down and get back to you. Yeah. Yes, I know, it's not, I want to be able to say tomorrow it's going to be fixed, but it's an ongoing process, yeah.
I was going to say thank you. I went through the process myself. I was one of the backlog for about a year and a half, but they did call me, apologize, and I was actually in pretty quick, so they are getting to it.
Yeah, we get about 1,000 consults, I think it's 1,000 consults a month just alone for optometry services. So since October, we've gotten in community care nearly 10,000 consults just from October of 2021. So if you look at, like I said earlier, we have 11,000 consults to get scheduled. We've essentially worked through that COVID backlog, and we're up to date, but it's so much still incoming. But our hopes is to trying to actively right-size that department. So, for instance, on Thursday, our business manager is meeting with our community care hiring officials to map out a plan of how many more positions do we want to change to virtual so we can get more schedulers on board so that we can stay, our goal is to be able to schedule you within 3 days, to contact you. So once we get that consult, within 3 days, we're calling you. So we are not happy with our timelines right now. So we are aggressively trying to fix that. So if we can hire more people to help schedule, that will expedite the process, but also hiring more people in the facility to serve you. Because like Lindsay said, we want your care in the VA. We want to be your choice of care. Because no matter how quickly we get you out to the community, just the system in and of itself from a national level doesn't lend itself right now with the electronic healthcare record systems for easy coordination and communication between community care and VA. And they're working on that at a national level, but we'd rather take care of you in-house. So I always tell the veterans and my family, just, it may seem like a little bit of a wait, but once you get to see that provider in-house, the coordination and the care goes a lot smoother. But so I'll take your information, sir, on my way out so I can help with that process.
So what are the eligible people that who receive for optometry or
When you're enrolled in our system, you're eligible to go to those services once you're enrolled. So the thing with the eye care and the audiology, you don't have to go to your PCP to access those services. Ortho, you do need to start with your primary care provider to determine what do you need from the orthopedic department. So you would start with your primary care provider for that, so they can make that assessment and refer you. But audiology and eyes, you can go straight to the clinic.
We've got an online question. When orthodontics is required, how do we get it since it's not offered yet? We are entitled to all of the necessary dental care per the records.
Can you repeat that question?
I might have read that. When orthodontics is required, how do we get it since it's not offered yet? And it looks like the second part, we are entitled to all necessary dental care per the records with a question mark. So
for dental care, the process for dental care is one of those services that we have high influx into community care. So if our dental department cannot see you, they make a referral to community care. So as long as you're enrolled in the system, you should be eligible to make a referral to dental. I know, can you help me out here? I got a phone a friend, Dr. Rhinitis, for dental eligibility. Phone a friend. So overall, I don't want to give you misinformation. I can only speak to when the consult comes to us, but I know that eligibility for routine dental care.
Yeah, so dental is one of the few services that is definitely restricted based on your service connection. So you have to be 100% service connected to be eligible for dental care within the VA, or actually be service connected for a medical condition that is related to that dental care that's needed. So I think the question might have been specific for orthodontics.
Yes.
Orthodontics is not available through the VA at this point, so I don't know if the VA would pay for orthodontics in the community unless it was related to a medical condition. So if you had to have surgery for your jaw and needed to have orthodontics as part of that, the VA would cover it. But just straight orthodontics or dental implants without a medical condition, I don't think the VA would cover that.
Thank you, Dr. Rhinitis.
That's right.
For hearing aids, for hearing aids, it's the same process. You can go to audiology, and then our audiology department cannot see you. They'll refer you to community care, and the community audiologist then would order the needed hearing aids through the VA. The hearing aids are shipped to the community provider for fitting and adjustment. So again, the hearing aids actually come from the VA, and eyeglasses come from VA.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We've been at this about an hour and a half. We still got some very, very important information. How about a stand up in place break for just a minute or two?
And once again, we want to thank everybody who's been answering questions and all of our staff members who are online answering questions as well. I want to remind you, if you have any questions that you'd like us to ask, please feel free to lay those in the comments and we'll be sure to ask those. After this quick minute or two break, we'll move on to our Seattle Federal VA leadership and getting some updates from the assistant director and some more updates as well on federal VA updates. So if you've got any questions there or something that you're wondering about, feel free to throw those in the comments and we will be glad to answer those after our next presenters speak. And thank you too for letting us know about the audio too. If you're facing any audio issues or aren't able to hear, please let us know in the comments so we can get those adjusted ASAP. A lot of really, really great questions going on and a lot of important information being shared today. And we will be sending out this link. You'll be able to view this live stream video after today's event on our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/WSDVA. And I believe we'll also be uploading it to our DVA website. That's www.dva.wa.gov. And you can learn about all the earned benefits, programs, resources, and more that your WDVA is offering and has available for our veterans and their family members. As we mentioned, just bear with us just another minute or so, and we should be returning back from an update with our Seattle leadership from our federal VA. Special thanks to Tacoma and Vets Post 1 for hosting us today. And definitely want to thank everyone online for watching and asking so many important questions, making sure that we're sharing those. And we should be beginning in just another minute or two. And if anyone's just joining us again, we're just taking a very, very brief break in between today's Governor's Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee Commander's Call Town Hall. And we want to remind everyone that we'll be answering questions. If you have any questions that you'd like us to answer, please share those in the comments. Shortly after this break, we'll be moving into our updates from our federal VA partners. And if you had a question for one of our previous speakers, feel free to put those in the comments as well. Our speakers will be available till the end of the meeting as well, and we'll be happy to answer some of those questions if we missed them.
And then I was going to go up to American and get my glasses. Before I could go,
Okay, let's see if we can round them up and get them going.
All right.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Round everybody up.
So I called a couple times to see the process. Phone 64. About 360. That helps a lot too. Yeah, I don't know. All I know is it's still approved. And I hired somebody to handle veterans. Not that there's any alcohol. Still have to go. Still like 3 rooms. So that was why I think that this is really nice.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's reconvene. Very, very important subjects about to come up. Claims. And how you increase your rating and stuff like that.
There you go. Guys hear me okay? Yep. All right, perfect. Well, first off, thank you so much. My name is John Lombardo. I'm the Assistant Director of the Seattle Regional Office. So it's nice to see some of these faces. You know, back 10 years ago, I used to work in the Seattle Regional Office as a management analyst. And it's funny because Michael was a management analyst as well. We've kind of moved around the country, got promotions, and we're back in this great state. So I recognize some of your faces. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a Washington native. I grew up in Olympia, Washington. So joined the Army out of Olympia. Right after high school, I said I'm gonna be a ski bum, and I went and worked at Crystal Mountain for a year. And then I realized that that's a seasonal job, it's not gonna make a lot of money, I need to get out of there. So, joined the Army, and I'm an Army infantry veteran. I did my time at the 101st Airborne Division in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So great times, I love my job, and still have buddies that are in right now. So this mission means a lot to me, it means a lot to my buddies. Some of them are retiring, some of them have already been out. So very passionate about this, and really feel like I can make a difference and have the voice of someone that went through the same things that maybe some of you guys have been through as well. So just a little bit about Seattle, a little bit of our leadership team. We have our executive director is Prince Navaratnasinghe, and then 2 assistant directors there because our office is extremely large. We have 2 national missions in the Disability Rating Activity Site, and then the Decision Review Operations Center that does appeals, so HLRs, high-level reviews, and supplemental claims. So big RO, and then the other part of that is our Veteran Service Center that just processes regular claims, increases, things like that, initial claims. Our other assistant director is Shelley Arzola, and then myself. We're both brand new. We've been here for about 6 months, so we're still kind of getting the hang of things, but have a wealth of knowledge about VBA. So excited to be here. Excited to be leading the Seattle RO. Next slide, please. So just some high-level overview stuff about our business line. We have VBA has education, insurance, pension fiduciary, veteran readiness and employment, which was formerly known as vocational rehabilitation and employment, compensation, admin review, VA home loan guarantee program, and then transition and economic development. And then down below, VBA recently consolidated non-rating claims to 8 best sites around the country. So good thing there. They do dependency claims, drill pay adjustments, and like. VBA field structure. So we initially had, I was an analyst back in the day for the Pacific District, and then kind of moved around to the Continental District. So I try to stay West Coast, Mid-West Coast. But we have 4 VBA district offices. Our acting Undersecretary for Benefits actually leads the Southeast District, Mr. Tom Murphy. 4 big district offices. The Office of Admin Review, which is the new AMA appeals office. We change names pretty frequently, so if I miss one of these, I apologize. We got the RMC, 8 regional loan centers, 2 big education regional processing offices, 6 FID hubs, an education call center, 3 PMCs, and then recently an increased national call centers. So those were, I believe there was 2 or 3 of those nationally. Jumped that up to 8 staff locations, most recently 1 in Reno, Nevada. The insurance center, the insurance call center, and then 56 regional offices nationally. So this is just the kind of map look at where everything's at. Southeast, Northeast District, Continental, and Pacific District. And just heard word that our Pacific District Director, Mr. John Skelly, is going to retire at the end of the month. So looking to get someone in there that'll help us lead our Pacific District. And just a little bit about the Seattle RO. Big RO, one of the largest regional offices in the country. Again, 2 national missions, a very big service center, and recently we increased our RAM, so our resource allocation model was increased to 918 FTE. I believe we got 46 additional FTE at the beginning of this year. So big things. We are absolutely one of the highest performing regional offices out there. And I stand by that 100%. I've been to so many regional offices, and we do things a little bit differently here. We're always searching for things that we can do better as long as we hit milestones and hit targets. That's kind of what drives us, and always keeping the veteran at the forefront. So with me today is Michael Payne. He's our Assistant Veteran Service Center Manager. He's going to give you guys a little rundown about some of the things that we have going on in VBA. A lot of stuff, a lot of presumptive conditions, and a lot of things like that. So introducing Michael Payne.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Payne. I'm the Assistant Service Center Manager for the Veteran Service Center in Seattle, Washington. I'm really glad to be with all of you today. First off, I just want to say thank you to all of the veteran service organizations. We couldn't do our jobs without you. You are basically the boots on the ground, speaking with most of the veterans and assisting them in reaching with the message and assistance for our processes. We do act as sort of the gateway into all the rest of the benefits and healthcare for veterans often. So usually the benefits administration is your first step in accessing VA medical, any sort of VA services. So we just wanted to provide some changes that are currently happening here. Again, just wanted to say thank you to the Washington Department of Veterans Affairs in the back for putting on this event so that we can get out in the community face to face and speak with you in person. So three of the major changes that we're addressing. This first slide here is the so Public Law 116.288. What that did was that created three new presumptive conditions for Blue Water Navy veterans that were exposed to Agent Orange. What that does is it expanded those conditions to bladder cancer, Parkinsonism, and hypothyroidism. It's just adding to the long list of presumptive conditions for veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange, mostly in Vietnam, and now expanding to Navy veterans that were in Blue Water. So that's the expansion that has recently occurred. There's a presumptive rating sites that are actually addressing these claims because we are expecting a lot of these claims to be coming in the door. So we've centralized those to 8 specific sites. 4 for live veterans and 4 for survivors. So we are entertaining claims for survivors of those veterans. The decision review operation centers will also be addressing these type of claims. So we have centralized those sites so that we can quickly address those particular claims. There's also a direct rating, so we will not hesitate to grant on secondary, direct, or aggravation of a particular condition. So for bladder cancer, if the veteran claims bladder cancer, Parkinsonism, or hyperthyroidism, that we will entertain direct service connection. So we don't necessarily need to look for the link to Agent Orange. If it's in the record, then we can also grant based on direct service connection. So that's a big change. We're expecting a lot of claims specifically for those 3 new presumptive conditions. Next slide. The other big change is the Gulf War presumptive conditions. So we have presumptive service connection for specific conditions for Gulf War. And those are mostly, well, it's at the bottom of the slide here. Actually, if you go back, sorry. Asthma, rhinitis, and sinusitis to include rhinosinusitis. These specific respiratory conditions for anyone that was in the Gulf War general area or Southwest Asia area, theater of operations, those are all new presumptive conditions. So you wouldn't have to have shown those specific any sort of treatment or anything in service. They're now presumptive, so we're just assuming that those things are caused by your service in the Gulf War region. So what that, and here's just the definition, that VA presumes that certain disabilities were caused by military service. This is because of unique circumstances of a specific veteran's military service. If a presumed condition is diagnosed to a veteran within a certain group, they'll be awarded disability compensation. So you don't need the nexus to show that there's a current condition and there was something that happened in service in order for us to grant that. If you were in this region, then we're just assuming that, and you have this condition currently, we're assuming that it was related to your service. That's basically what presumptive service condition means. We're expecting a lot of these claims because there are a lot of veterans in this particular era. And so we are trying to address that through an increase in hiring. So the next slide is about an increase of hiring. We're hiring an additional 2,094 claims processors across the nation to address the increasing inventory that we're expecting from the Gulf War presumptive conditions. By the end of October, we've already hired 550 of those folks, have been made offers to both the veteran service representative position and the rater, the rating specialist who makes the determination for those claims. Seattle has provided 42 additional employees, actually including support staff, 46 additional employees to assist in this particular effort. One note is that, again, John mentioned that we have 56 regional offices. For disability compensation, we've moved to a national work queue model, which means that for Washington State veterans, your claim might be completed or worked on at any of the regional offices across the nation. So you might notice if you're in va.gov and looking at your record, you might notice someone might contact you from another regional office or another state. It's because our claim system moves the claims across the nation to the next available claims processor. So you might get contacted from a claims processor from another regional office. So just a note to know that that might be occurring. And so for when we say that we're going to assist in this effort for these claims, for the Gulf War claims, it means that we might get assigned any of those claims from across the nation for any veteran that files for that particular claim. Just a note about this slide has some very small numbers on here, so I will just give you some highlights.
But there will be a test.
There will be a test, yes. So we have 630,000 claims pending right now for disability compensation. We've defined the backlog as anything pending for over 125 days. We have 40% of our inventory is sitting in that backlog. A lot of that is due to COVID delays, specifically for exams, and federal records delays. So oftentimes when a veteran needs to, when they file a claim, they also need to attend an in-person examination to gather evidence. And oftentimes that was not able to occur during the initial phases of the pandemic. So that caused a bit of a backlog on those particular claims. We did make an effort to contract out those exams and then increase the number of contractors in the local areas to make sure that veterans are able to attend an in-person exam when needed. The other efforts that we made were to address, do we really need the veteran to attend an in-person exam? So we went around and looked at particular records or particular conditions to see if we could make a decision based on the records that are already available, or ask our VA healthcare partners to make an opinion, or what we call an ACE. It's basically a way for us to ask a medical provider to make a decision and provide information about the veteran based on the records that are available. I'm not requiring the veteran to come into the exam. So those are a few efforts that we made to try and speed the claims process along and not be waiting for an in-person exam. Back to the numbers here. So we have been seeing an increase in our service times. We have an average days pending of 148 days. So if you filed a claim and you've been waiting about 148 days, that's pretty average in the amount of time that we're waiting right now. We do have an average days to complete of 126.3 days. So we are trying to prioritize claims that are in the backlog, but there are some claims that we're able to speed through the process. So right now we're completing claims in about 126 days. We are also prioritizing those that have been waiting longer. So we're working 45% of our claims completions are those that are in the backlog, while only 40% are actually in the backlog. So we're trying to push those that have been waiting longer as quickly as possible, but some claims are less complicated, and we're able to push those through, right upon receipt. If we don't need additional records and we don't need an examination, we're oftentimes able to address that claim pretty quickly. So those are just some highlights on the many numbers here on this slide. Something that I already touched on was the COVID impacts on exams. For the early stages of the pandemic, as I noted, a lot of the VA medical centers closed specific non-urgent medical appointments, and some of that were the disability compensation exams. We also have been moving over the past, I would say 5 to 6 years, we've been moving toward a contract exam model. So we've been, instead of having the veteran report to the VA Medical Center for a disability compensation examination, they're going out into the community. So we have contract examiners in different areas where veterans will be contacted by another organization on behalf of VA in order for them to report to a private medical doctor who will write that medical opinion or provide what's known as a DBQ. It's the Disability Exam Questionnaire. And then that information is provided to us to review for the claim itself. So that was a big effort. After the initial stages of the pandemic, we were able to reopen. So this is stating that 82 VHA medical centers continue to adjust the amount of exam workload that they can support, but we're also pushing those out into the contract examiners, and we've increased that beyond the pre-pandemic levels. So we actually are engaging a contractor to address those exams faster than we were before the pandemic, which has been a good shift in the requirement there. The other thing for VBA in-person exams, as of February 10th, 2021, all 50 states and 34 sites were authorized to perform in-person exams. So a majority are back authorized to perform in-person exams. Exams which require PPE removal for examination are now being scheduled in all U.S. locations. Exams with PPE removal were authorized at the military treatment facilities as well. So sometimes we do reach out to the military treatment facilities to engage in these exams as well for the claims process. Next slide is talking about outreach. So we have a public contact team at the Jackson Federal Building. We are seeing in-person appointments for veterans. We also can address by appointment. So if you go to the va.gov website and look for the Seattle, you can just search Seattle VA Regional Office, or our link is also here. So it's benefits.va.gov/Seattle. You can actually click on a link there to schedule an appointment with a Seattle individual to provide you any sort of answers to questions that you have regarding the claims process. And that's also for an in-person. You can select an in-person appointment, or you can select an online appointment, and we can meet you by phone or video chat. We also have outreach efforts for at-risk veteran communities. We're continuing that through our partnership with the Washington Department of Veterans Affairs, through veteran service organizations. We have implemented innovative ways of reaching out to veterans during the pandemic and during this period of not being able to be out in the community as much as we wanted to. So we have been providing a WebEx Wednesday, which is the first Wednesday of each month. We are providing a virtual conference for veteran service organizations and for community holders like the county service officers to attend in order to learn about a range of VA benefit topics. So we were ranging from aid and attendance to pension claims, and really just trying to educate the veteran service organizations and anyone that's assisting a veteran with various topics that we had. So we're at least getting the information out there in a forum where you could ask questions. So be looking for that invite. We have been sending that out to the VSO community. Again, it's the first Wednesday of each month. Just wanted to quickly discuss our claims process. So we basically break the disability claims process into 4 major parts. Claims establishment, which is happening in a lot of ways automated, where we're receiving our claims and they're being scanned in our system, and we're attempting to automate the establishment of the claim. If we're not able to establish the claim in an automatic way, it goes to an individual that reviews all the mail, and then we establish the claim from there. The next step is the development process, and this is usually the longest wait time is in the development process, where there can be some delays for exams or federal records. But this is the process where we're out there gathering records that the veteran is stating they need to support their exam. So on their application, they may identify any sort of records that they have from their private medical records. Could be records from their military service. We might need to gather their personnel record, depending on the type of claim that they're filing for the particular disability. So we're out there gathering records in the development process. Once we gathered all those records, we make the claim ready for decision, and it moves to the rating process where we have a rating specialist who will basically review all the records in there. They're reviewing both the medical and the information from the personnel record, and they're trying to make a determination on 2 things. One, is the claim service connected? Can we service connect the condition that is being claimed to their military service? And is there a current condition? And if there is a current condition, what's the severity of that current condition? So they're making those 2 determinations. One, is it service connected, and how severe is it? And they're making that percentage rating for that particular condition that the veteran is claiming is related to their service connection. Then it goes to the award team where they are producing the award. And if there's a running award, meaning we're already paying the veteran for a previous decision for any sort of service-connected conditions, then we're looking to see what is the new rating decision due to the award. Is it increasing the award? What's the overall total amount, a percentage for the veteran that we're going to provide for the award amounts? And then we'll authorize that award and send out the payments to the veteran. We are sending out those letters, they're basically receiving those electronically through their va.gov site. They often receive that before they receive the letter copy, but we are sending out the paper copy to veterans. We just wanted to note that there is a delay in printing right now, and also mailing, so just be looking for those letters, but also be checking your bank account to see if there's an increase in your award that's going out to your direct deposit.
What's the turnaround time?
The turnaround time for, I think it's 60-day delay right now is what we're seeing with printing, and then sending out the letters from our centralized printing office. Next slide, we've just got some basic information about the different types of claims that we have. So I'll just run through these pretty quickly. So again, disability compensation is a tax-free benefit to veterans for a disability that was incurred or aggravated by active duty service, who qualify as veterans discharged from service under conditions that are other than dishonorable, and veterans who have a current disability due to injury, disease, or psychological issue incurred or aggravated by active duty service. So there's a range. Again, we were talking about the percentage range, 0 to 100%. There's a combined overall amount based on the number of conditions that you have and the severity of that. The compensation payments range from 10 to 100%. So if you're service connected at the 0%, there's no payment amount for that, but you can get medical based on that 0% service connection. Additional allowance for dependents kick in at the 30% or higher. So you can claim dependents and increase the amount of your award based on the 30% or higher rating. The next slide is talking about some types of disability compensation claims. So if there's an original claim, if a veteran has never filed with us before, we consider that an original claim for VA services. It might take us a little bit longer to gather all of your records because we're looking for your military service records. and trying to bring all those in from various parts. Oftentimes we retire records to the National Personal Record Center, which fits under the National Archives. So we oftentimes have to reach out to our National Archives partners to gather those records forward, and we did see some of those delays with federal records during the pandemic. There's a new claim happens if you're claiming some new service connections. If you've already received your initial claim for service connection, and then you want to file for a new condition, we consider those new claims. An increased claim is if you're already service connected and your condition has gotten worse. Definitely come back to us, and we might be able to increase the award amount for you based on the increase in severity of your condition. The secondary claim, if you have a secondary condition that is caused by or directly related to a service-connected condition, you might be able to get an additional rating for that additional secondary condition. So we definitely entertain claims for a secondary condition. Supplemental claim is where if we denied you service connection previously, you can always come back to us and say, I have more information and I'd like a supplemental review because I'm providing you new information. Sometimes veterans file and for a condition that did definitely occur in service and we can see it in the records. Yes, we see the event that occurred in service, but you don't have a current condition. We don't have a diagnosis for the condition. So if there's no current diagnosis, but then you're able to get a diagnosis later, we might be able to service connect that condition. So there's a lot of different scenarios where we want to reevaluate our initial decision about a particular condition. The next slide is on ancillary benefits. So once you're service connected, there's a lot of additional type of benefits that are written into law, which allows us to increase your benefit. Sometimes that looks like individual unemployability. So if you are not rated at 100%, but you're not able to work because of your service-connected conditions, we might be able to give you the 100% rate benefit through individual unemployability. That's based on employment record history, current employment status, reason for unemployment, and current service-connected disabilities. So if you're looking at the overall service connection, we might be able to grant what's known as IU or individual unemployability. So special monthly compensation is an increased benefit beyond the 100% level. So if you have a condition that requires aid in attendance or what's known as special monthly compensation, you need a higher benefit than the percentage because of a loss of both legs or a loss of use of certain extremities. There's a lot of different reasons why we would increase the benefit for a specific condition that you may have related to service connection. We also have a clothing allowance program, so if you need specific clothes because of your service-connected condition, you would get an allowance for clothing to be paid out on an annual basis. Additional ancillary benefits include automobile allowance. So a one-time allowance is there for a purchase of an automobile or conveyance. It could be a new or used auto or other mode of transportation. You also would automatically apply or qualify for adaptive equipment if we're rating that. So that would be on your rating decision when the rating specialist makes a decision for specific conditions. We may also state that you also need some sort of auto allowance because of the particular condition that you are service connected for. So that is one benefit that we would automatically grant. Generally, you don't need to apply for that. And as veteran service officers, I'm sure a lot of you are already advocating for veterans to make sure that that is happening, to make sure that the rating decision already automatically addresses that. Auto adaptive allowance is a little bit different. It may be paid more than once, and it's an adaptive equipment for your auto. So be looking for that as well in your rating decision. Specially adapted housing and special home adaptation. This helps service members and veterans with certain service-connected disabilities to purchase, construct, or modify their home to accommodate their specific disability. And again, those are generally automatically granted based on the type of condition that you're service connected for. But if you notice on your rating decision that it's not included, and you can always come back in and ask for that to be added to your rating decision. And then we wanted to just quickly review how to apply for claims. And again, as veteran service officers, thank you for all of your assistance in making sure that veterans were able to navigate the system. There is an intent to file process where if a veteran is not quite ready to provide their full application package, they can send in an application just to basically save their effective date, and that would be their payment date. So if we get an intent to file or an indicator that a veteran wants to file a claim, we'll save that date for a year so that we can pay you back to that particular date. That's been an important addition. A fully developed claim is out there. We like to receive claims that have all the information so that we can quickly grant them. So if you have already disability, the DDQ, the disability actual questionnaire filled out by the medical provider, that's really helpful for us to receive that at the front end, because we might be able to provide you a quick grant based on that information. But we will always still offer a VA medical examination if needed. You can submit your application through va.gov. That's the preferred method that it's being received online. We don't have to send it in for scanning and then add it to our system through either the auto establishment of the claim or through a claims assistant who would physically review it. You can submit a paper application through the VA Form 21-526EZ. That's the main application form. So the 526EZ, I'm sure you've heard that a lot. So that's the basic application for disability compensation claims. You can send that specifically to us, or you can submit it to us online. You can submit also a release, which would be the 4142, which is a disclosure to name your your power of attorney, and that's a limited power of attorney, specifically for veteran service organizations or individuals who would act on your behalf specifically for the claim process. All that information is really helpful to make sure that the VSO can act on your behalf to make sure that the claim is moving quickly through the process. We already addressed the government printing office delay. There is a delay in sending out these notification letters. Just wanted to note that we are extending the response period to 90 days for any documents that were mailed to you from July to December of 2021. That's just acknowledging the fact that we have this government printing office delay, and veterans may not be receiving their notice of their award during that period. So instead of having a short response period, everything's been extended to 90 days. Appeals, that's the next hot topic that we wanted to discuss. Again, as John had mentioned, we have one of two decision review operations centers here in Seattle. A while back, several years ago, we consolidated all the appeals teams. They were all out at the 56 regional offices. They're now focused on these two decision review operations centers. It's one of the reasons why Seattle is so big. It's because we have one of these centers here for the benefit site. So back in 2019, there was the Veterans Appeals Improvement and Modernization Act, and that created 3 lanes, and that was referred to previously. So there's 3 lanes for your appeal. If you receive a decision from us, again, for that initial claim for disability compensation, and you disagree, you say, I should be service connected for this, or I should be service connected at a higher rate. If you disagree with any of the decisions that you receive from the VA, you can always appeal. You'll receive the appeal notice in your email or in your the notification letter with a form, and also these 3 options will be laid out for you. The 3 options are a higher level review. So if you want an entirely new review based on the evidence of record by an experienced adjudicator, that'll be going to the Decision Review Operations Center, and they'll review that claim. So it's basically asking for the next higher person to look at the claim. A supplemental claim, if you want to add some additional evidence to your claim, you say, we'll list all the evidence that we had and that we made the decision based off of in the rating decision. And if you see something that wasn't considered, and you know that you wanted that piece of information considered for your decision, that'll be a supplemental claim, and that'll actually come to the service center where I work. And we will entertain that claim within the service center. And we might make a different decision based on that additional evidence that you're submitting to us. Or if you can just tell us there is evidence out there that you want gathered, that'll be in the supplemental lane claim. And then there's the appeal lane, which is a formal appeal to the Board of Veterans Appeals. And that has a separate submission process, which can happen online, and we'll cover that on the next slide. Actually, the next slide is going to just discuss some processing times for the appeals modernization. We, again, as I mentioned, all the appeals teams from those 56 offices were consolidated to the Decision Review Operations Center, and then we created these 3 lanes to try and speed things up because the appeals were taking years. And again, as veteran service officers, you all know that appeals were taking years. And you would get called up for a hearing, and you'd have the hearing, and then you'd have to wait longer for a decision. So what we try to do is recreate the system here, create these 3 lanes, so that if a veteran just wanted to add a piece of evidence that was missing, we could address that through the normal process. Or if they just wanted a review, we could do that at the Decision Review Operations Center. If they wanted an official appeal to go to the Board of Veterans Appeals, that's a whole separate process outside of the Benefits Administration. So we're saying, and we're finding that this is actually working. So the target date for a supplemental claim is 125 days. The actual days that it takes us to complete that is 89 days. And under this program, we've received 229,000 claims in that lane. So we've been able to address those claims a whole lot faster rather than sitting in a years-long process of waiting for an appeal. The higher level review, again, this is something that we're just saying for the next person up the food chain to look at the particular claim. The target is 125 days. We're addressing those in 91 days, and we've completed 94,000 of those. So again, they're not stuck in that years-long process of waiting for the formal appeal. The HLR grant rate is 17%, so only 17% is the change. VA is basically saying that we made the correct decision oftentimes, but 17% of the time we didn't make the right decision and we make a change. Supplemental grant rate is 48%, so that missing piece of information that came in helped us, and we were able to grant or increase the veteran's claim. Appeals modernization hot topics, that's this slide. We just wanted to note that you can now submit HR, the higher level review online, and it'll actually go through like an interview process instead. So it'll be similar to you using like a tax, like TurboTax or something like that. It'll go through an interview process to help you file that particular claim. We also wanted to mention the Claims Accuracy Review Pilot. This is fixing fatally flawed decisions, meaning that if we made a decision, any decision in the Veteran Service Center, and you all as Veteran Service Officers notice that it's incorrect, you can contact us within this period in order to tell us that, hey, this decision doesn't look right. Because you all as Veteran Service Officers are well trained and you all read these day in and day out, and oftentimes you all are able to catch errors that we can quickly fix instead of going through the appeals process. So Seattle has been helping with that particular project. It's limited to VA accredited VSOs, agents, and attorneys. And basically you're able to do that by filing a higher level review form 0996. And the timeliness goal is 30 days. And we've been able to address those in less days than that. So that's a way for the VSO to reach out and ask to fix something that's obviously wrong in the decision rather than going through the appeals process. We just wanted to provide a link for the appeals resources and materials on the next slide. So that's available at benefits.va.gov/benefits/appeals. So you can find brochures and information about the appeals process there. We also just wanted to mention Solid Start. So Solid Start is a newly separated service members can expect calls from qualified Solid Start representatives over the first year of their separation from military service. VA will attempt to contact the veterans several times, around 90, 180, and 365 days post-separation from military service. So that's an attempt for us to contact VA to directly contact veterans that were recently separated and just advise them of all the different benefits that are available. So it's sort of an interview. It's asking them specifically, you know, where are you at? Do you need any services? Were you injured in the military service? Just to try and make sure that veterans who are recently separated from military service are receiving the services that they are entitled to. And then the rest of the slides are really just our contact information, but I just wanted to open it up to any questions related to disability compensation or any of the benefits. We'll start over here.
Thank you, Michael. I'd like to take you back to the beginning of your presentation in reference to Public Law 116-288, the Blue Water Navy definition. Does that definition include only those certain number of miles offshore Vietnam, or does it also cover naval craft that was stationed in the Mediterranean, which also refueled, rearmed, and distributed supplies to naval aircraft going into Southeast Asia?
Thank you for your question. So the good thing about this whole process is that we've been centralizing the review of these particular Agent Orange determinations. Previously, each of the 56 regional offices would just read the regulations and make the determination at each of those offices. Sometimes that wasn't correct. And now with the new wrinkle in law, the good change in law, in order to increase basically the catchment area for these particular claims, we've centralized those to Agent Orange specific development sites. So when my folks here in Seattle receive the claim, they recognize that there needs to be a presumptive connection, disability connection review done. We're flashing that claim and it's being sent to one of these centralized sites. So we have a special person who is trained specifically on these laws, these law changes, to make sure that the veteran is considered for those. And those are some of the sticky questions that are being addressed. There is a specific nautical miles off of the shore, which is some of the research that those individuals are doing to basically we're trying to pinpoint where was the ship that the naval veteran or any veteran that was on that particular ship, if they crossed that nautical mile line, which I believe is 19 miles, 12 miles. So if they crossed that nautical line and we're able to pinpoint that ship did cross that nautical line, then we're able to grant. That's the information that we need. But also the question about the Mediterranean and all of those areas, those specific claims, representatives are trying to look at that. But I'm not sure off the top of my head anything about the Mediterranean.
I initially want to say it's just within that range in Vietnam, but I'd have to go back and look.
But one thing to note is that we are looking at the aircraft that transported Agent Orange. So there is a small group of claims processors that look at C-123 claims, which are specifically for the aircraft that transported Agent Orange. The big tubs of it that were moved onto planes. And if you were working on that plane, then those are considered as well. So they really have looked at all of the areas wherever Agent Orange, basically the chain of custody where it was Agent Orange transported and moved across, and where all of the service members have been exposed specifically to it. So they are looking at that, yes.
Okay, so you've got my email address. If you could send me that further definition, I'd appreciate it so I can forward it to some interested parties.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Question back to back. And we'll go over here.
Yeah, so we got word on the intent to file is going to be changing in the near future. Can we get some input on that as far as the intent affecting on increases, not just new conditions?
Can you repeat the question too?
Yes, the question was about intent to file. So I'll actually take that one back. I haven't heard of anything changing specifically about intent to file. But if there are any recent changes or any planned changes for the intent to file process, we can certainly let the group know through the email distribution. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. There might be something that is in the works to be changed, and we just need to make sure that we're aware of it here in Seattle. Yes.
Thank you. So, I just want to make sure I heard correctly earlier, maybe I just misheard, but, is it my understanding that the definition the VA is using for someone who can submit a claim is anyone with up to other than dishonorable? Is that correct?
General.
That's not, so
Other than dishonorable.
Anything up to other than dishonorable?
We will entertain the claim, yes.
Okay, so if I was to send someone to a VSO, they could submit that claim on behalf of that individual to the VA?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify. Sorry.
Yes, you can always, any veteran can file a claim. We'll look at the specifics of the veteran's discharge. Also, you know, veterans are in need of immediate medical care, they can always go to the medical center. And they would, you know, we would be able to look at and provide an immediate administrative decision. So that anyone that's suffering from mental health conditions, you know, we'll try and get those folks care, regardless of their discharge. But the other thing that we'll do as well is look at, through the administrative decision process, oftentimes the VA can upgrade. I mean, it's not on the military side, but the VA can make a decision to say, yes, we're gonna write this veteran in. They'll look at the facts and circumstances of the discharge, and oftentimes we can, for VA purposes, write them in for services. It's not gonna change the military side. They have to go through a board in order to change and upgrade their discharge for that. They go here in the front.
Oh, thank you. So as an employment veteran representative, this is not a personal incident, but I've spoken to a few veterans who have stated that their award compensation has either hit a cut or a decrease, or they have received a cut in their actual monthly benefit. And they're stating that it's due to maybe not coming in for exams, which you did mention there was a backlog on that in exams during the actual pandemic. So I wanted to ask, are you aware of that? And if so, could you speak to that?
Sure, we'd really have to look at the specific individual's case. But the only thing that I would think of is the cut in benefits is if we found a change or if we received information that would reduce the veteran, we have to provide notice to the veteran that it's a proposal to reduce an award amount based on if we get medical evidence saying the veteran's doing better and the condition has changed, we might propose to reduce the award amount. Another area is if there's a clear error that VA made an error in making service connection, or if VA made an error in the evaluation amount, the percentage rating, then we would also send a proposal to reduce or a proposal to sever service connection for specific conditions. But we have to provide notice, and then we provide you due process rights to provide us information back. Oftentimes within that, we also say you can come to us and provide information through a hearing. So a veteran will often ask for a specific hearing. There was a delay in the hearings because of COVID, but we have restarted hearings. Those are known as predetermination hearings, where the veteran can bring information at that time. And veteran service organizations, again, thank you for helping represent veterans in those particular instances, because we sometimes find out new information in the hearing, and we don't need to actually reduce the award or sever the service connection based on new information that we receive.
Thank you.
One more question.
One more? Okay, I am a VSO here at AMVETS. My name is Mike. Couple of quick things. First of all, is the WebEx Wednesday, which I heard one, and I thought it was very informative. I thought it was great. But usually I have a client in my office at the time. Is the regional office going to actually like record that and put it on the website or something? So I can listen to it later?
Good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
So
why.
I was the last presenter.
Oh, yes.
And it was recorded. Now,
Okay.
I'm not sure where they store the recordings, but I was definitely recorded.
Okay. I I didn't know where I could access that.
I'm just wondering, I mean, if we do report them, then, you know,
Helen Saucedo, it was, she goes by
Yeah, Pearl, yeah.
was the contact in arranging it. So if that helps.
Yeah, I wonder,
I mean,
I'm thinking maybe we could put that somewhere that you guys have access to, it's like a SharePoint site or something where we can.
Well, that kind of brings me to my second question, is that, is the RO, you put it out like a newsletter or something occasion or whatever, of some sort? I'll say this, I get the VA, the DVA newsletter, but almost always the information that's in there, I already read on military.com. And we don't get anything directly as a VSO. I don't get anything directly from VA saying, okay, this is what's coming down. Like the gentleman was talking about the new intent to file. I didn't hear about that. Okay, that's coming down the pike. So that was the other thing. The third thing is, and I'm trying to make this quick. We have a real problem. I have a real problem with VA Health giving the doctors writing letters, nexus letters, okay, and then worsening conditions for increases. How does that affect the decision making on that? If I can't get a letter from the doctor, because they'll either say it's a conflict of interest, they're okay to do it, or what I usually hear is it's in the VA medical records. VA can look there. How does that affect the company?
That's a great question. So I don't want to answer for the health side of things. So veterans often will go to the primary care doctor, and that might be the VA or it might be in the private sector, and they ask for a opinion. And oftentimes, the VA in the claims process, we need to have a nexus. So our folks are not medical trained professionals. So, I mean, a lot of them have background in medical, but they're not able to make the medical determination that this particular condition, which is happening right now, was actually related to the event in service. So we go out and we ask for a medical doctor to provide that opinion. Oftentimes it's in concert with the VA examination. So the VA examination will happen, but we'll also ask for the same doctor to write the medical opinion. And then oftentimes we base that off of that particular opinion. But we also look at the totality of the record. So we are looking at the VA Medical Center records. We're also looking at any private medical records that are provided. So all the evidence that we list on the rating decision, we're considering that whole record to make the decision whether or not that condition is service connected or if we're increasing the amount to what specific amount. Now the question is, why aren't individuals writing those medical opinions from either the medical center or the private side? And I think that we've gotten kind of a range of responses, but if VA needs it, we will request it through the VA exam process or through a contract examiner, which means that we will send the records electronically, they'll have access to those records, and then they'll write the medical opinion for us. So we don't necessarily need the veteran to go out and ask for that information. We'll obtain that medical opinion either through a contract examiner, or we might request it through the Compensation and Pension Office, ask for local veterans organization within the VHA.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure that John and Michael will be here for a few minutes after if there are any other specific questions. Mr. Sweet, I added this personally to our agenda. Within the past 6 months, I've received 3 phone calls from high school and college friends saying, so-and-so died, what will I do? Now, part of it, I guess, is the age, but that's why I wanted to add this information. It's very important, obviously.
Thank you for having me. My name is Marquez Sweet. I am the lead representative with Tahoma National Cemetery. I was told a couple of days ago, so I don't have everything fully prepared, but I'll give you some brief history of Tahoma and tell you about eligibility and burial benefits. So Tahoma was established in 1997. It's currently in Kent, Washington. It's kind of like in the Maple Valley, Covington area. We currently have over 50,000 attorneys there. Out of the 155 national cemeteries in the United States, we are the 15th busiest. We have space at Tahoma until the year 2040. That's what's scheduled right now, but in the next 2 to 3 years, we will be doing an expansion on Tahoma. So that number is going to jump from 2040 to whatever they deem is the new year. So don't worry, it's more spaces that's going to be coming. Let's talk about eligibility requirements to be eligible. So basically, number one eligible person is a veteran that served honorably. You are eligible to be placed there at Tahoma as long as you didn't have a dishonorable discharge. Of course, the veteran spouse, any minor dependent, active duty members, and adult dependents, and this happens if a child has, say, had a birth defect. Of course, they will still be kind of considered as a minor even though they're adult, or if a child, like a college-age child, got injured or something happened to that college-age child, that person is also eligible. The easiest way to explain that, if a child became an adult, was able to hold down the job, was married, then they probably not going to qualify to be placed with their parents at National Cemetery. So of course, reservist members, as long as they are eligible for retirement out of the reserves, they are eligible. And then a couple of special caveats to that is, okay, during World War II, if you served during the public health services, you was a doctor of public health services, you was a merchant marine during World War II. Also, if you served as you fought as an ally in the military, well, you was, okay, let me think of that. You were an allied army of the United States during a war period, and you become a U.S. citizen, you also qualify to be buried at a national cemetery. Does that make sense?
There you go.
So, one of the questions they wanted me to ask is burial assistance for those who opt out of being placed at a national cemetery. So if you choose a private cemetery, the Department of Veteran Affairs, the main reason why they created the National Cemetery Administration, so veterans and their spouses could be buried for free at the National Cemetery. So if you opt to be placed at a private cemetery, that cost will fall on you, but you can go onto the National Cemetery website and apply for some burial reimbursement benefits that you initially have to pay for it out of pocket, but then you apply and they'll reimburse you some of that money. As far as a private headstone at a private cemetery, you can just call us at Tahoma National Cemetery. We'll send you out the form to fill out, and after you fill out that form, the National Cemetery Administration will send out a private headstone to that private cemetery. As far as on the cemetery grounds, we do two type of interments. When I say interment, I mean urn placements. We have above ground, the columbarium wall, looks like a mausoleum wall with white marble niche plates. We have our in-ground cremation, it comes with a flat granite marker, and then all of our casket sites come with an upright marker. Those are our three burial options. We also have a memorial wall. Memorial wall is basically unrecoverable remains. So a sailor got his ashes scattered at sea, or somebody went up the Mount Rainier and scattered their loved one. We have paperwork. Again, just call us here at Tahoma. We'll send you some paperwork to fill out, send us that paperwork back, and then we can get a memorial marker placed at Tahoma for that veteran or that veteran's spouse as well. Okay, so any questions or any concerns that you would ever have about the National Cemetery Administration, if you go to our website, and that's CEM Charlie Echo Mike .va Victor Alpha .gov Golf Alpha or Golf Oscar Victory. That would have all the information you need about any burial benefits, questions about spouses being buried, children being buried, all the national cemeteries across the United States, all that is on there. One thing I do want to address, a lot of people, we get this call almost daily about us losing space in Tahoma. That's why I mentioned that we're good on space at Tahoma. Whenever you hear a news report about the National Cemetery Administration losing space, it's not so much the National Cemetery Administration, it's actually Arlington. Arlington is running out of space, but that cemetery isn't run by the NCA, it's actually ran by the Department of the Army. So anytime that it's kind of like the same process, you still go through us to get somebody placed at Arlington, but they have it's a crazy time, like a 1 to 2 year waiting list to actually get placed there. So contact us, we'll give you the contact information to get somebody a case established at Arlington if that's their wishes, but do know that it is a wait time to actually get a service and a burial out there. Go ahead.
Are there forms that we can, or that a family member could fill out before?
Yeah, so I brought with me these forms. It's called a pre-need eligibility form. And you're basically going to fill this out, and I'll stack them on the table over there. You basically fill these out along and attach a copy of the veteran's military discharge. You do have to fill one out for the wife, for the spouse, and one out for the veteran. It also, up in the left-hand corner, you can either mail it, email it, or fax it in. When you send this form in, it'll take about 60 to 90 days, but then you'll get a packet in the mail stating that you can be placed at any national cemetery. Now, this is more of a warm and fuzzy, more than reserving a site. You can't reserve sites at national cemeteries or at time of needs service. So what I suggest to everybody is go find a funeral home that you want to work with for the body preparation. It's your choice whether you go casket or not, like we said. Give them the DD-214, let them know that your final wishes is to be placed in Tahoma or any other national cemetery. And upon your passing, that funeral home will contact our headquarters in St. Louis, get the case established, and then they get sit down to the cemetery, and then we'll contact the funeral home and the family from that point to get everything scheduled in the veteran or the veteran spouse burial. Those are my main top points. I don't know too much about the medical aid in Spokane, but I do have their contact number. It's 509-299-6280. I believe it's a cost with them if you're going to get a veteran placed out there. But like I said, call them to get more specifics on their cemetery. With us, it is no cost. It's just the body preparation and then transportation to the cemetery. That kind of falls on the family. But like I said, once the burial was all said and done, whether it's a private cemetery or a national cemetery, you go onto our website and it's an application form that you can apply for some reimbursement benefits. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have a comment. The Medical Day Cemetery is a WDVA cemetery. We do not charge the veteran, but we do have a small charge for spouses, because this is a state sponsor, and therefore, we need to be able to get revenue. But there is a small cost compared to a regular cemetery for spouses.
Our contact number at Tahoma is 425-413-9614. We're open Monday through Friday for staff being there between the hours of 8 and 4:30. But the cemetery is open 7 days a week for visitations from sun up to sundown.
Say that number again.
425-413-9614.
Thank you.
How can a veteran find out the options of a headstone?
Yeah, it's so if you go to the website, it's not going to tell you like specifically, because it's going to give you all the options for all the national cemeteries, and each national cemetery does do things a little bit different. So the best option I would tell them is just contact us directly, and then we can just tell them all their options, which is the flat granite marker, the upright for the caskets, and then the wall monument. So that's the easiest way. You just call us at Tacoma, and we can kind of walk the veteran through that.
Does anybody know, is there with modern technology, is for military honors, is there a way to figure out if a veteran has honorable service for military honor purposes, where they don't have a DD-214 available?
Oh, yes.
So they're gonna get buried, say, in a community cemetery, and they can't find the DD-214.
Yeah, so if they can't find the DD-214, of course, I know most of you know that was a fire that happened, that a lot of records got destroyed. So our eligibility office in St. Louis, that's all they do. Most of the time, we do get a lot of veterans, hey, we don't know where his DD-214 is. We're just going to give you the number straight to our St. Louis office. They do have the capability of, as long as you have the veteran, like basic information, like a social, birth date, the name of the veteran, they should be able to locate the file. If they can't, because they got like the same kind of access that the FBI has. So if they can't locate it, then they just can't locate it. But more than likely they can.
Thank you. Thank you very much. When looking at the issue of headstones, I'm often remembered G. Gordon Liddy from Watergate Payne said, "I really don't care what they write on my headstone, I won't be there to read it." So, Madam Director, do you have any? Let me thank very much Lisa and Gary for the physical setup to record and to respond to our virtual things. Jerry, thank you again for the hospitality of AMVETS for hosting us. And thank the members of the VAC who are present and who are watching. And with that, the Director.
Thank you. And I just want to thank Jim for putting together, with Lisa's help, a very ambitious schedule for today. As you know, it was pretty jam-packed. If you have any questions, whether it's those who are watching the stream or looking at this recording later on, please make sure that you send an email and with your questions to, it's very easy, Lisa, Liza at dva.wa.gov. Lisa with a Z at dva.wa.gov. Send your questions. We assure you that we will answer them, or at least get the right person to be able to connect to you again. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the back.
Those who came from Seattle to make presentations. Thank you.
Especially, and especially when we have the senior executives from each one of these activities, it's really important to us and to the veterans community, so thank you all very much.
And we thank everybody again for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to either email Lisa or you can send us a direct message on Facebook, and we'll be more than happy to get you connected or get you an answer as soon as possible. Thank you, and this video will be available on our Facebook page moving forward, as well as our website, www.dva.wa.gov.